Thank you, guys. So we'll just see first how this k-means clustering works. Okay. So there are we'll just see it in a step-by-step way, and after that, once you have understood how this k-means clustering works, we'll just apply a data set on it. We'll just apply one of the data sets on it, and we'll see how it clusters. Okay. So before going to that, first you need to remember what unsupervised machine learning is. So first we'll just have a small recap of what unsupervised machine learning is. Yeah. So unsupervised machine learning, you have already dealt with supervised learning, where you are being supervised based on the output what you're having on your output parameter. You have supervised your model. Okay, yeah, your model has learned based on the output which is given for the each and every record which is there in the data set. Here in unsupervised machine learning, you don't have any output to be predicted. In your unsupervised machine learning, you don't have any output to be predicted based on the inputs or based on the parameters or based on the features which are having. We have to classify, we have to categorize them or cluster them. Okay, based on the similarity of the features which are there in the data set, we have to cluster them. Okay, so our main goal in unsupervised machine learning is to do clustering. Clustering is nothing but forming groups. How these groups are being formed based on similarity of the features. Okay, and as you have already gone across this, the best example for this is target marketing. Okay, so in target marketing, just kind of if you take Facebook ads or something like that, so based on the similarities of the accounts or similarities of likes, so a group of people who like same particular thing, like a nature related thing or a filmy stuff or something like that. So those particular group will be sent with a particular ad. People who like nature will be given with one more particular one more type of ad. So how these things are known based on the similarity of the features. Okay, so here also in unsupervised machine learning, based on the similarity of the features, we will be forming groups. Okay, now our main thing is how to find the similarities. That's what we are going to see in this k-means clustering. Okay, so coming to this, so first we'll see how this k-means clustering works. Okay, so in k-means clustering, so first we'll see, we'll, as I've said, we'll be going it in a step-by-step way. Okay, the first, so just note down these steps, guys. First of all, just note down these steps. Okay, so before k-means clustering and after k-means clustering, what happens? So this is the data set. If you have plotted your data set using a kind of a scatter plot. Okay, so these are, if you see, these are the data points which are there. So if these are the data points, what happens when you apply k-means clustering? Okay, this is what happens when you apply k-means clustering. You'll be forming clusters based on its similarity of the features. Okay, so that's what we're going to see, that the similarity, how the similarities work. Okay, so but before going to that, better you just note down these points so that it will be easier for you to understand all the steps. Just take a note of all these points, guys. Initially you may not be able to understand what each point says, but once we proceed on to step, we'll see the step by step in detail, then you'll be able to clearly understand how k-means clustering works. Just take a note of these. The first point is, first step is choosing the number of k of clusters. So we'll see that how to find the k value and all. Okay, selecting a random k points, not necessarily the data points, it can be centroids. Assign each data point to the closest centroid. Compute and place the new centroid for each cluster. Reassign each data point to the new closest centroid. If any reassignment took place, go to step number 4, otherwise go to final. Just take a note of these points. Just let me know once you have done taking the note of these points. Just let me know on the chats. Okay, Bharat. Is it done? Just let me know once on the chats once it is done. Okay, yeah, thank you. So though the steps are clear, but we'll see in detail. Okay, the first step which I'm having is choosing the number of k of clusters. Now, k, what is this k value? Okay, that finding out the k, you're having a separate procedure for that. So as of now, first we'll see how after finding out the k value, what happens. That's what we're going to see. So once you have known, then we can find the way for finding out the k value. Okay, the first step which I'm having here is choosing the number of k of clusters. So as of now, consider, okay, as of now, for the example sake, consider the k of clusters is equal to 2. Okay, consider the k of clusters is equal to 2. So this is the data points which are having. Okay, so this is one feature, this is one more feature, x-axis is one feature, y-axis is one feature. Remember that in supervised you used to have a y value, okay, the output value. Okay, don't get confused here. You don't have any y value here, you'll be having only features. So this might be x1, this might be x2. If you're having a z-axis, that might be x3. Okay, so these are the intersection points or a scatter plot between x1 and x2, since you're having x and y axis here. Okay, so these are the intersection points of x1 and x2. Okay, so just consider a small data set. Okay, so first step, choose the number of k of clusters. As of now, k equal to 2. Okay, so once the k value is found, what is the next step you're having, guys? Select at k random points. So since we have selected k equal to 2, select at random 2 points the centroids, not necessarily from your data set. Okay, so you can see here I've just selected 2 points, random points. So the step clearly says that these 2 points need not be the points which are there on the data set. These 2 points can be any 2 points. Okay, not necessarily from your data set. So as of now, randomly I've taken here 2 points. One is this blue point and one is this red point. We call them initially, we just call these points as centroids. We assume them as centroids. Okay, so once the k random points are being found, okay, is it clear till here, guys, on the chats? On the chats, is it clear till here? The first step is finding out the k value. So we'll see how to find the k value also. As of now, for this example, consider k equal to 2. Okay, and select k points, not necessarily from your from your data set. So I just taken 2 points, not necessarily from the data set. So these are 2 points. The third step coming up, assign each data point to the closest centroids. Assign each data point to the closest centroid that forms k clusters. Now if you see here, understand the point clearly, assign each data point, these are the data points, right, to the closest centroid. Now closest centroid, since we are having two centroids, we have to find the distance between this point to this point, this point to this centroid, this point to this centroid. Suppose if you take this point, this data point is closest to this red centroid rather than the blue centroid. Okay, if you take this point is nearer to red rather than blue. If you take this one, this point is nearer to blue rather than to red. Okay, so basically the algorithm finds out the distance from the centroid to the data points. But for our understanding, what we have done is we have just taken a small theorem from our geometry. If you have learned from your schooling. Okay, so So we have taken a small theorem from your geometry stating that, so if a line, if a perpendicular line passing to the center, passing through the center of a line will divide the data points into two equal halves. Okay, so you can see here, just to find out, just a minute guys. Okay, just for our convenience, we have just shown this kind of representation to divide it into equal halves. Okay, but actual in algorithm what happens is that it will just find the distance from this point to this point, this point to this point. All the data points will be checking the distances between these centroids. Okay, so which one is nearer to it, that will be assigned to the blue centroid. Suppose if you take this point is obviously nearer to blue, but it is far away from red. Okay, so this is nearest to blue, this is nearest to blue, this is nearest to blue. Just for our understanding, we have just for this example sake here, just to show you which data point belongs to what, we have just used this theorem. But actually in algorithm, it finds the distances. Okay, so what is the point? Assign each data point to the closest centroid, so that it forms k of cluster, it forms two clusters. So if you see here, since we have assigned it, okay, so all the points which are nearer to this blue are being categorized as blue category. All the points which are nearer to this red are being categorized as red category. Is it clear till here on the charts? Or do you want me to explain one more time the step? Guys, this algorithm will be understood only if you understand step by step. Okay. Is it clear till here on the charts? Please let me know once. If you want me to repeat one more time, I'll repeat it. Yeah, sure. Sure, Roshni. So if you see here, yeah. So first we have kept k random points. These are the centroids. Okay, random 2 points. Okay, so once we have kept this random 2 points here, okay, our goal is to find the nearest data points. That's what the step says. Assign each data point. These crosses are, these cross marks are nothing but the data points, right? Assign each data point to the closest centroid. As I've said, blue and red are the centroids, right? Okay, so how to find out the closest centroid, guys? Obviously, we can just find the distance. Okay, so if you see here, this is, if you calculate the distance from this point to this point, okay, and this point to this point, which one is nearer? Obviously, the distance from here to this blue point is nearer rather than from here to this point, right? Okay, so that's what, so this point is nearer to this one, this point is nearer to this one, this point is nearer to this one. Okay, how it finds? Algorithm obviously finds a distance. What algorithm does is, it will obviously finds the distance from this point to all the data points and this point to all the data points. Which one is nearer to the respective centroids? Okay, that would be taken. Okay, for our understanding, we cannot find the distance by just seeing it like that, right? So what we have used is, we have just used some kind of a geometrical theorem which helps us in finding out which point is nearer to what. Okay, so understood here now? Is it clear? So you can see all these points which are lying to the left side of this line are nearer to blue, and all these points which are nearer to this right side of this line are nearer to red. Okay, just simple here, just find the distances. Okay, which one is nearer to what, we have to assign to that respective centroid. Okay, so you can see here, all these blue points, all these points which are lying which are nearer to blue are being categorized as blue points. What are the points which are nearer to red are being categorized as red points. As I've said, clustering is grouping of items which are based on similarity of features. Okay, so here we are finding out the similarity based on the distance. Is it clear till here, guys, on the chats? Please let me know once. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So once we found out the distance, okay, we have categorized the points. The algorithm is not done till here, guys. Okay, so now once it is being formed, once the distances are being formed, and once you have first categorization is done, like classifying into red and separating into blue and red categories. The next step is compute and place the new centroid of each cluster. No, the word itself says centroid. Okay, centroid in the sense it should be the center of mass for all the data points. Okay, so if you see here, we have formed the blue points. We have categorized the red points in the previous step. Now the next step is finding out the centroid. How to find the centroid? What you're going to do is for finding out the centroid, if you project all these points onto the y-axis and all these points onto the x-axis. If you project all the blue points onto y-axis and project all the red points onto the x-axis, okay. So suppose if you take here, this point is here, here, like that. If you find the center for those points, suppose you are having some 10 here, the maximum point is 10, and if you take the minimum point here is 5. What will be the center of it? It will be something around 7.5, right? So that will be your centroid. So once we found out the centroid, we'll just project it onto the two-dimensional space. Are we clear? So what we are going to do here is compute and place a new centroid of each cluster. So once we have found this separation, once we have categorized into blue and red, okay, we have to find the compute and place the new centroid for each cluster. Okay, how to find the new centroid? So just the easiest way for us to understand is just project all these points onto the y-axis. Okay, all the blue points onto y-axis, all the red points onto x-axis. Once they have been projected onto x and y axes, okay, what you have to do is we have to find the average of these points. Suppose this point is lying somewhere, for example sake, yes, consider this is fifth point at the number 5, at the number on the number line 5 you are having this point, and on the number line 10 you are having this point, this maximum point. Okay, so where you're going to place the centroid, I'm going to place exactly at the average point. Okay, so this is the average point which I'm having. So I'll just project it back onto the two-dimensional space. Once we got the centroid point, I'll just project it back into the two-dimensional space. Okay, in the same way here also, the red axis, the y-axis, I'll just place all these red points on the x-axis. Okay, the average point I'm going to take, and I'm going to find the centroid. Okay, so this will be my new centroid. Centroid can be just like a center of mass for all the blue points and center of mass for all the red points. Okay, so you can see if you place it here, it will be the center of mass for all the blue points. If you place it here, it will be center for all the red points. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? Compute and place the new centroid. That's what we have done. How to find the new centroid? By doing this kind of a process, we can just find the new centroid. Okay, so once the centroid is found, okay, guys, don't compromise if you are not able to understand. Okay, is it clear, right? Yeah. Okay, so once the new centroid is formed, okay, so once the new centroid is formed, what is the next step we have to do is, what is step number 5? Reassign each data point to the new closest centroid. If any reassignment took place, go to step number 4, otherwise go to final model. Okay, now what is this reassignment of each data point? Now since we have changed the centroids here, since we have changed the centroids to the new positions, obviously when you change the centroids to new positions, if you see, calculate the distance now once again. If you calculate which point is nearer to which centroid, you calculate the distance once again. If there is any reassignment taking place, then you have to go to step number 4. If there is no reassignment taking place, we will just go to final model. Now what is that? Okay, so see here, if you see this point, if you see this, just tell me guys, is this point nearer to red or nearer to blue on the charts? Just by observation as of now, if you see this point, is it nearer to red or nearer to blue on the charts? All of you on the charts, is this point nearer to red or nearer to blue? Yeah, very good, Harshvardhan. It is obviously nearer to red. Now this point nearer to red or nearer to blue? Red, right? So by observation you are able to find it out, but obviously with the distance itself it is it is possible, right? So reassignment is nothing but, so if there are any points changing from red to blue or from blue to red, here you can see These 2 points are obviously changing to red because we need to reassign it to the nearest data points, nearest centroid, right? These 2 points are nearest to the centroid. Okay. So that means there is a kind of a reassignment taking place. Again, just by observation, you don't get satisfied saying that it is nearer to it. We'll just use a theorem. Okay, we'll just use the same theorem which we have followed in the first step. I mean, in the second step, you can see here. I'll just draw the parallel perpendicular line passing through the exactly center of the line. We'll divide it into equal halves. So you can see here, these 2 points are coming into this red category, and this point, if you see here, this point is coming into blue category. So did the reassignment took place or not? On the charts, did the reassignment took place? Yes. Reassignment is nothing but changing of blue category to red or red category to blue. So that's what we have categorized it into again. So we have categorized into red categories, these points into red categories, and we have categorized this into blue category. Okay. Now, what did he say when the reassignment took place? So if any reassignment took place, go to step number 4. What is step number 4, guys? Finding out the centroid again. Okay, optimal centroid or new centroid. Compute and place the new centroid. This is step number 4, right? So that's what we are going to do here. So since there is a reassignment taken place, we are going to apply step number 4. Okay, so you can see here, compute and place the new centroid, which is nothing but the step number 4. Since you again, how to find the centroid, guys? Project all the points, project all the blue points onto y-axis, project all the points into all the red points into x-axis, find out the centroid. Okay, so you can see here there is a new centroid formed. Okay, once the new centroid is formed, so the centroid positions change. Once the centroid position change, again we will be going to step number 5. So what is there in step number 5? Again, we have to find if there is any reassignment taking place or not. So you can see here, there is a reassignment taken place. One of the red points is moving into the blue border. Okay, blue category. Okay, so that means there is a reassignment taken place. So once there is any reassignment, again we have to compute the centroid. So it's an iterative process, guys. It's an iterative process. Once again, we are going to compute the new centroid. Again, if we are going to check it again, once is there any reassignment taken place or not? So you can see there is one reassignment taken place. We'll compute the new centroid again. So this process continues until and unless there is no reassignment taken place. So you can see from this step here, once you draw this line, there is no reassignment taken place. Now we can just confirm that as, now we have confirmed it as, so these all points belong to blue category, these all points belong to one red category. That means these are all from blue cluster, these are all one cluster, these data points are one cluster, these data points are one more cluster. Is it understood till here? On the charts, do you want me to repeat one more time? Do you want me to repeat one more time? I'm happy to repeat if you're not able to follow. On the chats, anyone who didn't understand, please let me know once, so that we'll just check it one more time. Okay, Chandana. So we just have a quick recap of what we have done. So just following those steps. Okay, nothing much. We are just following those steps. Okay, the first step is first finding out the K of clusters. Once we found the K of clusters, select the random centroids. Just select random centroids. So once the random centroids are being found, we have to find the nearest data points which are nearer to these respective centroids. So you can see here, so just for our understanding, we have just used this kind of theorem to find which one is nearer to which centroid. So you can see here, these data points are nearer to this blue, these data points are nearer to red. Now what is the next step? Compute and place a new centroid. So we're going to place a new centroid by projecting all the points onto x and y axis respectively, and we are going to place a new centroid. How to place a new centroid? Just kind of an average. It's a kind of a center of mass for all the data points. And here also we're going to find the centroid for this red. So once again, once you have reassigned the center, we have changed the centroids or computed the centroids. Okay, what you have to do is you have to check whether there is any reassignment taken place. What in the reassignment? Nothing but if if the existing data points which are there as red and blue, are they changing their categories, or are they changing their positions or not? Okay, are they converting from red to blue or blue to red? So that is nothing but reassignment. You can see here, this point is nearer to this red, this point is nearer to this red, and this point is nearer to blue. So that's the reason there is a reassignment taken place. So once there is any reassignment taken place, we'll be converting into blue and red categories respectively. And after that, and compute and place a new centroid. Okay, so here, once there is any reassignment taken place, again we have to compute. Again we'll find the nearest points. If there is any reassignment, again compute the centroids, again compute it if there is any reassignment. So when you're going to stop it until we receive the final destination where you don't have any points jumping from red to blue or blue to red. Okay, so that's this kind of scenario. So once it is formed, you can form two clusters. Okay, now, so once this is formed, it is fine, sir. The algorithm is fine, everything is looks good. Okay, but here there are some problems which we face. Okay, in this algorithm. So we'll see that the first problem, which is random installation problem. The first problem we'll be coming across is a random installation problem. So what is that? So random installation is nothing but, see, the second step we have done it right. We have first taken two clusters, two k points. We have randomly initialized the data, the centroids. Did you remember that? The second step, we have randomly initialized the centroids. But what happens when you do that random initialization? What are the problems you might face? That's what you're going to see here. Problems which you face when you do random initializations. So if you take this example, for suppose, okay, we have just considered k equal to 3. As of now, for this example, we have considered k equal to 3. Okay, so when you have considered k equal to 3, I'll just randomly, from the observation itself, you can just see clearly. So this is one cluster, this is forming one cluster, this is forming one cluster, this is forming one cluster, just by observation. Just by observation, you're able to find it, right? So this belongs to one cluster, this is one cluster, this is one cluster. Okay, so the output would be somewhat like this. So if you correctly initialize the centroids like this in these positions, you might be getting the correct clustering. Okay, you might be getting correct clustering. But what actually happens if you, instead of placing the centroids in these positions, if you place them in different other positions, what happens? Okay, that's what we're going to see here. For suppose, but what would happen if we had a bad random installation? What happens? So if you see here, if you choose the number of k of clusters equal to 3 for the same data set, if I randomly place the centroids like this, here 2 and here 1, for suppose, okay, so if you calculate all that steps which you have gone across, all the 6 steps which you had, 5 steps which you had, if you do the computation like that, what happens? If you see here, if you find the nearest data points and all these things, okay, this might be the final solution, final clustering. Okay, if there are no points jumping from one category to other category. Okay, let's assume that if there are no points jumping from one category to other category, so this might be the clusters which will be formed. But what are the clusters which we had, guys? This is the actual cluster which need to be formed, but this is how it is being formed. Is it correct or false? Is it correct or wrong? This is the correct one. This is the one which is obtained because of this kind of installation. So obviously those doesn't match. Are you following, guys? So since if the installations are good, okay, this might be your output. But since we have initialized it in a random way like this in these different positions, you got the clustering output like this, which is not equal to the actual one. Okay, that is your random installation problem. That is a random installation problem. So to undergo this random installation, to solve this or to uh, prevent this random installation problem, we are going to use one metric called, or one criteria called k-means plus plus. Did you understand the random installation problem here, guys? Till here, is it clear on the charts? Is it clear till here? What happens if you do random installation? We should be getting this right side output if the installations were correct, and as from our observations also, you are able to clearly see that which one forms which cluster. But since we have done this kind of random installation, okay, we got these points in such a way. For suppose, instead of placing this green here, if I place all the 3 points here itself, it might be a problem, right? So that's what, to solve this problem, we're going to use a metric called k-means plus plus. So this k-means plus plus will help you in placing the centroids. Okay, so this k-means plus plus criteria, just for the example information sake, I'm just giving you this one. So just k-means plus plus will help you in placing the centroid positions, optimal centroid positions. Okay, so we are not going in detail about what is k-means plus plus and all. Okay, that would be a different road. Okay, so that's what, just for this point, the solution for random installation is k-means plus plus. Is it clear? Okay, so this was the problem which might occur. So to solve this problem, we are going to use this, guys. In the this k-means plus plus will be used in our implementation. Okay, while we do the hands-on, we'll be going across that k-means plus plus. Okay, so we'll be using that k-means plus plus over there. Okay, which helps us in finding out the optimal position of your centroids. Okay, now, so we quite easily found the clustering steps, and we have understood everything. But one of the most avoided thing, that is how to find the k value. Most of you might have stuck over there. Sir, you are saying k equal to 3, k equal to 2. How you are getting that? Okay, that's an important step, right? So we'll see that how k value is found. Okay, how to find the k value in your k-means clustering. Okay, are you ready, guys? Is it clear till here? On the chats, please let me know once. Okay, we'll go and see how to find the k value. Okay, yeah. Yeah, choosing the right number of clusters. So k value is nothing but finding out the number of clusters. Okay, so for this finding out the k of clusters, or finding out the k value, we're going to use a metric called WCSS, within cluster sum of squares. WCSS, within cluster sum of squares. Okay, so we'll see that how this WCSS works. Okay, just take this we'll see how this metric works. First of all, WCSS, that is a formula for finding out the k value, to find out the WCSS within cluster sum of squares. WCSS, within cluster sum of squares. So just try to understand how to do this one. So for suppose, if you're having 3 centroids, or 3 clusters, okay, the formula would be like this. WCS is equal to summation of point in cluster 1. This is how you speak out that point in cluster 1, distance between point to cluster 1s. I represents the number of data points. If you see here, suppose these are 3 clusters. First, try to understand, guys, how to calculate WCSS. Then we'll see how to find the k value. Okay, so WCSS can be found using this formula. Okay, for suppose, if you're having 3 clusters, or suppose you're having 3 clusters, then how to find the WCSS value? So summation of point in cluster 1. What is point in cluster 1, guys? Suppose this is cluster 1. This is point in cluster 1, right? This is also point in cluster 1. This is also point in cluster 1, point in cluster 1, point in cluster 1. All these points, that means the distance of all the points to cluster 1 and the square of it. That means suppose from here to here the distance is some 3 units. So 3 square plus 1 square plus 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 1 square, 2 square, 1 square. So like that. So we are going to square it and we are going to do the summation on it. That's what point in cluster 1 represents. I represents all the points which are having. Suppose you're having 10 points, you'll be getting 10 values here, and we have to do the summation on it. Okay, and plus summation of point in cluster 2. That means suppose this green point is cluster 2. So from here to here, 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 here to here. That is nothing but summation of point in cluster 2. Okay, so here we'll be getting some, here we'll be getting some value, here we'll be getting some value. So combinedly we call that as WCS value if you're having 3 centroids. So you can see here C1, C2, C3 are nothing but your clusters, I mean centroids of the clusters, and PI is the data points on respective clusters. Did you understand WCS's formula here? Try to understand slide by slide. You will understand finally how the K value will be found. Just for example's sake, if you take K equal to 3, okay, if you're having 3 clusters, what will be the WCS value? All of you, do you understand how to calculate WCS value for 3 clusters? Okay, cool. Now, sir, you are saying we have to find K value, right? Now you are directly saying it as K equal to 3. Okay, so how to find actually the K value? So coming slides are nothing but how to find the K value. So what you have to do is, first we'll be assuming excuse me, first we'll be assuming you're having only one cluster for the whole data set. For the whole data set, assume that we'll just form only one cluster, that is C1. Now, if you're having only one cluster, what will be the formula, guys, for WCSS? WCS is equal to summation of point in cluster 1. This will only be the formula. Okay. Now, what you have to do, all these points are the points in cluster 1, right? So here you'll be having some 5 units, 4 units, 6 units, 3 units or 4 units, like that. You'll be calculating all the summation values, and you're going all the distance values, and we're going to square it, and you're going to do the summation. Okay. Now, once you do that, so will the WCS value will be high or low? Just imagine here 6 square plus 8 square plus 13 square plus 14 square plus 5 square, 4 square, 5 square. It will be obviously high. Yes, very good, Harshvardhan. It is obviously high. The distance is high. Sum of all the distances will be between these points will also be high. So if you take WCS, if you take only one cluster, the WCS value will be high. Okay. Now we'll just take the WCS value for here, for this instance. Now we'll go and take 2 clusters. We'll go and see what happens if you do with 2 clusters. Now I'll just assume that these are the 2 clusters. 2 clusters which are being formed. I mean 2 centroids. These are the 2 centroids. So how to find the WCS for the 2 centroids? So summation of for these points and the centered one distance squares, and the summation of it, and from here to here, from here to here, and its square and summation. Now just tell me, guys, will the WCS value will be high or low when compared to WCS value of one cluster? Will the WCS value will be high or low when compared to the first one? Obviously low, because you can see here you'll be having only 2 square, 1 square, 3 square, 4 square, 2 square, like that. Previously you're having some 8 squares, 7 squares, 15 square, 14 square, like that. So obviously WCS value will be less when compared to cluster 1. Now just in the same way, when you're having 3 clusters, what will be the WCS value? Will be low or high? If you're having 3 clusters, 3 centroids, if you're having 3 centroids, will the WCS value will be high or low? Low, obviously low. Okay, if you're having 3 clusters, WCS value will be obviously low when compared to the previous 2 centroids and its WCS values. Okay. Now just tell me guys, this is some tricky question. How many clusters can be formed? What are the maximum number of clusters can be formed? A question to you guys. What are the maximum number of clusters can be formed when you are given with a data set? When you're given with the data points and they're like that, how many clusters can be formed? Maximum number of clusters. Is it only 12? Harshvardhan, think. Think how many clusters can be formed if you are given with a data set. Yeah, that's what. Srija, based on number of features, 16, no, depends on data. You're not giving the correct answer. That's what. What are the maximum number of centroids that can be formed? I mean, that's what. Centroids are nothing but clusters, right? What are the maximum number of centroids or clusters can be formed? What will be the n value? That's what, Kavya. No. Think, guys. Just assume it like this here. 36, only 36, not according to this data. See, you can just call it as depends on the points. So how many data points you're having, those many number of clusters can be formed. Yes or no, guys? This single point can also be a cluster, right? The single point can also be a cluster. The single point can also be a cluster. Yes or no? Total number of data points which are having are nothing but the number of clusters, the maximum number of clusters that can be formed. That's what, right? That's what you are saying, that right, Sangeeta? Okay. So as of now, suppose if you're having some 48 points or something like that, so 48 clusters can be formed. So how many number of data points are having, those many number of clusters can be formed. Yes. Now what will be the WCS value if you're having maximum number of clusters? What will be the WCSS value if you're having maximum number of clusters? Suppose if you're having some 50 data points. Okay. Yeah. Very good, Aruna, sorry. So if you're having some 50 data points, if you're having some 50 clusters, okay, what will be WCS value? WCS value will be 0, because if you see here, this is one cluster, right? The point is the same, the cluster is also the same. What will be the distance? The point is the same, the cluster is also the same, the centroid is also the same. What will be the WCS value? 0. So when you calculate the whole WCS value for 48 clusters, also you'll be getting 0 itself. So if you see, that's what I was about to say. So maximum number of clusters that can be formed is the number of data points which are present in the data set. Okay. So for that, WCS value will be 0. Did you understand this point, all of you, or not? Is it clear with this point? Is this point clearer to all of you? See, WCS value is calculated between the distance between the point and the centroid, right? If the centroid is the same and the point is also same, obviously the WCS will be 0. That means if you keep on, so from this what you have interpreted, guys, if you keep on increasing the number of clusters, the WHS value will be decreased. Yes, can we interpret that? If you keep on increasing the number of clusters, the WHS value will be decreased or not? Okay, and it will fade to 0. Okay, so that's what. If you plot the graph between the WCS value and the number of clusters, so you can see x-axis consists of number of clusters, WCSS values are these. So if you plot the graph between the WCS and the number of clusters, okay, you'll be getting a graph in such a way. So you can see the maximum WCS value for one cluster. For two clusters, there is a drastic, a small change, a correction of 3,000, 5,000, and here one more change if you're having three clusters, and here and here, you can see the value nearing to 0. Okay. Now, from this graph, how to interpret the K value? Okay, how to find the optimal k value? Optimal k value is nothing but optimal cluster value. So you can see here this method we call it as elbow method. So elbow method is nothing but wherever you got that elbow shape, just like in your for your hand elbow you're having, right? Wherever you got that exact elbow shape, that will be your k value. So here you can see that this is your hand, right? So here we got the exact elbow shape. How we are going to identify that as an elbow shape? You can see here, from here to here there is a drastic change. Okay, and from here to here also there is a drastic change, but from here to here there is not that much amount of a drastic change happening, right? So that point where you can see there is not that much amount of drastic change, that point will be your k value, which will be your optimal number of clusters. So this whole process which I have done, WCS and all these things, we call that as elbow method. Okay, that's how you're going to calculate the k value. Is it clear, guys? On the chats, is it clear how to find the k value? So we want to draw this kind of a graph between, we want to plot a graph between your WCS value and the clusters. Wherever you got that elbow shape, or where you got a, where you don't see any kind of drastic change from one cluster to another cluster, that point we are going to consider it as the k value. Is it clear? So we got the k value. So once we got the k value, obviously what we have to do? We have to go across all the steps which we have discussed. Okay, so we'll be going across all these steps previously. So our first step is finding out the k value, right? So we found the k value. So what happens if you found the k value? We'll be going across all these whole iteration. Okay. So once we found the k value here, from that graph we got to know k value is 3 for that particular data set. Once we found that, again 3 centroids, positioning and all these things. Okay. So any doubts with this? Any doubts? Anyone having any doubts, you can just ask. And don't think that we can do for only two features, x1, x2. We can have any number of features, we can just plot it. I mean, we can just find the clusters. Okay. I'll show you with the practical implementation also. Anyone from the chats, anyone having any doubts? If you're not having any doubts, we'll just move to the implementation, the practical part of it. Okay. Shall we move on to the hands-on of it? Just ping me once, guys, on the chats. Shall we move on to the hands-on of it? Okay. Thank you, guys. So all of you just open your Jupyter notebooks. I'll just share you the data set. First, open your Jupyter notebooks. So wherever you are keeping all your files, and just go to that place and make sure that you place that Jupyter notebook also over there. So I think all of you are doing it in the C drive itself, I guess. Okay. Just go to your Jupyter notebooks. So I'm just uploading the data set in the Zoom itself. Just check it here once. On the chats, all of you, just check it here. I'm just pasting that. Haripriya, previously how you have done in the same way you can do it. How you have working I mean, doing this hands-on in this internship, in the same way you can just do it. You can just proceed. Okay. So you see here, I've just uploaded the data set in the chat. Just download the data set and paste it in your place it where you used to do the same. Okay, you used to place it in your C drives, right? I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't share it. I see on the chats once. See on the chat, I just pasted the data set. So download the data set and place it in your respective data set positions where you used to place previously. So all of you guys get ready with your Jupyter notebooks. Nikhil, if possible, just paste in the Slack also the same data set. Okay, yeah. Open a new Jupyter file. Give the name of the file as k-means clustering. Okay, are you ready, guys? Just let me know. Just load your data set. Okay. Just let me know once you have done.